Welcome everybody to Into the Fry Zone. Happy New Year. It has been a while and I'm so excited to be back with my dad. So before I go any further, let me bring him into the stream. Hey Dad, what's up?
Hi, hello everybody. Happy New Year.
Dad, I'm so excited. And so, it's been a while since we've been here. I took like a 2-week hiatus and we do have to discuss, we did do a broadcast right before we did the hiatus that actually got banned by Facebook. And so it's a rite of passage because I'm really excited that we got banned. But it made you nervous. It made you nervous. But apparently we actually were showing some highlights of Alton, Illinois. And we were actually, featuring some artists from Alton, and one of the people that we featured was Miles Davis. And so we played like a little segment of So What, and we got banned. They shut me down. They told me I had to remove my video and everything. We only played, it wasn't even 30 seconds, and we talked over the video. So yeah, Sony is like ridiculous. That's all I have to say.
Well,
I never did,
it will probably happen again. Maybe even today. With our special guest today might get banned too.
Yeah, pretty soon I get banned off of Facebook. Oh wow, it's interesting. But this is the thing about it. I think that it's some content, if you are watching it, especially if you're doing a reaction video or something like that, this is a way to introduce that content to another audience. So I'm not ashamed of playing content that people are not used to seeing on a regular basis. However, I do feel that I am justified in actually showing something if I'm talking over the video, because there's no way anybody can record it. I'm talking over the video. I only show a second of it. We were having a discussion. It just shows how much control Sony has over everything and why they decided that they were going to, shut me down. So we have to go back and we have to re-edit that video. I might have to take Miles completely out of the video. I don't know. I'm still determining what I want to do with it. And
they haven't banned you from your Twitter account yet, have they?
No. Hey, let's talk about that. Let's talk about all social media, banned from all social media. This is social media that has incited riots and takeovers of capitals, something that is completely out of a movie. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So he's been completely shut off. I just don't know. He's probably writing on somebody's wall right now.
He's probably borrowing somebody else's. That's where he got a lot of his base.
One of his supporters. Yeah, one of his supporters. He's basically showing up with that. But it's been very interesting these last few days, just dealing with all of that transition of power. I mean, I can't tell you how weird this last year has been. And I'm looking forward to be better. I really am. I'm looking forward to us coming into a new age, a new era, But I mean, before we get into that, and we wish everybody Happy New Year. I hope that everybody is staying safe and they're staying healthy and they're, talking about making this a better 2021. But speaking of that, this is the main reason why our year has been crazy, and that's because of COVID-19. So the last time I spoke to you, Dad, you were in line to have the injection and to actually have the vaccine.
Correct.
How was it?
Okay. Well, let me give you an update. I will be taking my second shot. It's a 2-course shot on Monday, January 11th, and I'm still here. And the only thing that I had that I noticed was a little pain, soreness in my arm. But I understand that the second shot can possibly give you a little more side effects, that they're showing a lot more in the second dose, maybe nausea, maybe a on and off fever, of that type, or sweatings of that type, I can take that, But for all the conspiracy theories and all my friends who are afraid to take the shot, I just want you to think a little bit and think in your head that if the shots were bad and we're going to kill everybody off, why would they want to kill people that are your frontline workers, your healthcare workers, your doctors, your nurses? Then everybody would die. So it just doesn't make sense.
Because y'all are getting the placebo.
Oh, we're getting the placebo. They're going to give you all the real stuff. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, that's not true. That's not true, y'all.
I never thought of that, but that could be possible.
That's not true. That's not true, audience. That's not true.
But I just want everyone to think that who's going to gain from it if there is some type of conspiracy. You always, in a conspiracy theory, figure out who's going to gain from whatever it is. And I don't think the gain here is going to be favorable for someone to want to kill off all the population. Just doesn't make sense. But anyway, I will be taking a second shot, and everybody will keep you posted on how I go with that. But right now, things seems to be fine. And I would advise everybody to get it as soon as they can, or as soon as it's available for them, and without hesitation, because the more who get it, the less the virus has to attack, and eventually it will die out. Now, whether we'll have to tease every year, that still hasn't been determined yet, but it may be a thing, it may be a yearly thing, or maybe put in with the regular influenza shots that we get each year. But that's my update.
Well, I've had three family members actually take it. So it's been you, my sister Dana, who incidentally, before we go any further, I want to send a special shout out to my sister Dana. Today is her birthday, and there she is. She is Diva RN, my little baby sister. Today's her birthday. And each year, I put up a post for her and everything like that. But I just want to wish my baby sister a very blessed, happy birthday. She has been doing a lot lately with our family. As you all know, we lost both of our parents. She lost both of her parents. We lost two of our caregivers in the last 3 years. And so this young lady has been going through a lot, but she continues to keep that smile on her face, and so I'm just very proud of her, and she's a good mom. She's got great kids. What can you say? This is my baby sister is all that in a bag of chips. So happy birthday, Dana.
Happy birthday, Dana.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go on. So she actually had the vaccine. Sean, my husband, had the vaccine, and he's due to go back and get the second part of it. So, it seems like everybody's doing okay with it. My best friend Lisa is about to do it. I'm still on the fence about when I want to take this vaccine. I honestly feel like I want to do it in its third or fourth generation. But if I have to do it, they're already setting up here in New York City to give to the civilians. So it's happening, baby.
Mm-hmm. I think you'll be okay.
You think I'll be okay?
I think you'll be okay.
I think I'll be okay too. Mm-hmm. So anyway, speaking of all the strangeness that we were talking about going into, this new year, the interesting thing that I came across is, did you know, well, before we go anywhere, before we do anything, Dad, how was your Christmas? What did you get for Christmas?
Well, I think I didn't get a lot of gifts, but I did get a gift, and my gift from you was some wine, and I guess is it New York wine or base that I've never had. I have a lot of Missouri wine, but I want to get into this wine and taste it. I haven't yet, but that is something that I'm really, really looking forward to getting into. Yeah. But so, I didn't really do a lot of Christmas this year.
What I did hear is that I was did get actually Stacy responded and she said something about she's heard that the first round of the Moderna also I'm still hurting. Am I still hurting?
Oh,
Yes.
really?
Hi sis. That's my sister Stacy commenting. Yeah, she's still hurting in her arm.
Yeah,
So
that's pain. Mm.
yeah. But anyway, so I was going to say that I your Christmas gift, I had actually ordered it from Sugarfina. So Sugarfina had partnered up with Reserve Bar, and you got like you were supposed to get an advent calendar along with your wine and everything. But the advent calendar, I guess, is sold out, so you didn't get the beautiful candy. Sugarfina, if most of you are not familiar with it, is a very high-end candy that you can buy here in Manhattan, and I'm sure that they're elsewhere. They have delicious candy, and a lot of times it's infused with actual liquor and stuff like that. I mean, you can't get drunk off of it, but I mean, some of the most flavorful candy that I've ever tasted. And I wanted Dad and Denise to experience it, and unfortunately they didn't do it. So I'm going to have to send them a separate Sugarfina gift so they can enjoy it. But I did get something for Christmas. I actually got a baby Grogu, an animatronic baby Grogu. And if you do watch The Mandalorian, then you know who baby Grogu is. I was tickled pink. I was like 8 years old again. My husband gifted me with this, and I played with that thing all day. So it actually reacts to you when you touch its head. I guess when you go over its head, it reacts, it closes its eyes, it coos, it does everything that baby Grogu does, and it even actually does the force. It extends its hand and says, does the force, whatever. It's a little creepy, I will admit, but I totally love this little thing. So I'm very, very happy with my little gift.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I highly recommend people get it because this is the first make or model of it. If you are somebody that's a toy collector, you might want to get this version of it first before they start creating more of them. But I absolutely love it. It's a lot smaller than the actual Grogu's that they were selling at Target and Walmart and stuff like that. It's a little bit smaller, but it's just adorable. It really is. Now, I might have other things to say if that little thing starts popping off in the middle of the night without it being turned on, and that's a whole nother story because there's something else going on. I've seen so many videos of people who have like these kind of dolls, and all of a sudden they just turn on out of nowhere, just out of one night they just start reacting. So that's going to be a whole nother. I'll let y'all know if that ends up happening.
Right.
I'll move it out of our house. But the other thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to get your opinion on just the civil unrest that was happening, with this transition of power. What did you think about all of this, Dad?
Well, I'm old school and I've been around a while, and I thought I would never see anything like this in my lifetime. I thought we were a country that we split our politics. We've probably always been split, being conservative or being liberal or what, but we've always had a transition of power, and the people who lose the elections usually go back to their base and try to win when the next election comes around. I've never known anyone to the extreme of wanting to overturn an election. And I think people should remember that even I'm sure there are things that goes on in a lot of the elections, but none of them were found, even by the party that lost, to show any evidence that it would have overturned anything for the things that they did find. But when you've been indoctrinated that this country's corrupt or it's going or leaning a certain way that's not the way that you want to go, you never know what will go on in people's minds. I do know that if this was the Black Lives Matter movement, they wouldn't have ever got past the first barrier. And that's upsetting to me. Not that I would have wanted them to, but it's just that these are things that people don't realize. They're called white privilege. And people should understand what white privilege really means and look into it. But they don't seem to believe that there's any problem with that, but it's still ongoing. And this is an example of it. And I'm appalled by it and proof of what happened. And I think whether you're riding in a Black Lives Matter movement or whether you're relying on a so-called patriotic movement that if you're destroying property or burning and looting, that you should be prosecuted, regardless of your party or color or whatever. That's just my opinion.
I am all for people protesting. I'm all for the right of free speech, but this was just civil disorder. And to have this actually happen in our country in the 21st century, based on all of this stuff that's going on and the craziness behind all of this and what they were allowed to do, because you're right, Dad, if it were us and we are a different color, this would have been worse. It would have been terrible. As a result of this, though, 4 people died and 1 police officer, I believe, actually passed away as a result of all this craziness. And yet and still, these people have not been prosecuted by law for this behavior. Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you that once they called in the National Guard, once they called in the military and everything, the military was not going to hesitate to put this thing back in place, because if they did not, this would set a precedence for people to continue to do and have this kind of behavior in America. And they're not going to stand for that. It just was just the craziest, the lowest, basest behavior that I've ever witnessed in America. And I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed because it wasn't even the fact that these people did it. It's one thing if they did it and they went in and they did it civilly. What happened here, grabbing merchandise and sitting in chairs and stuff like that, was it looked like a bunch of country yokels going into up to the big house. That's what it looked like. And then on top of all of that, he didn't say anything. He kind of encouraged it in his speech. He knew exactly what he was doing. I'm a little concerned because he did say, when this transition of power, he did say, that he thanked he thanked the people that were his supporters, and he said the journey just began. It's just now beginning. And I was concerned. What does that mean? Does this mean that this man is going to put us through another crazy situation in the future? He will never be a president again. He will never be the president again.
I agree.
At the end of the day, and I don't want to make this a black, brown, white issue, but when we are unified as people of color, we usually get things done, because at the end of the day, there are more of us in this world than it is of this. So I think that we definitely have a voice. We saw that with this election when we put somebody else in power, and we need to continue to make changes in America that don't result in this foolishness.
I agree. It's a sad day.
Yeah, very sad day. Very, very, it's embarrassing. We are supposed to be the model of democracy here in America, and then this is our representation. How is anybody going to ever take us seriously?
It'll be a long time.
It'll be a very long time. Well, after that, yes. It took 4 years of this, but we got to see this. But I wanted to actually say, you think that that's crazy. So a former Israeli space security chief who just wrote a book, he's like 80-something years old, by the name of Chaim Eshed, said that America and all of us out here on Earth are part of an alien federation. And that aliens have been living here for centuries, that they have permission to do experiments here on this planet, that they are concerned about the process of where our planet is going. And so our military or our government allowed them to to actually stay here. Now, the interesting thing about this, Dad, is there have been UFOologists actually, claiming this for years.
Right.
And now they're justified, because every strange thing that you've ever seen, that's that keyword experiments, like Bigfoot, rakes, black-eyed children, all of these strange things that people have seen are actually are alien hybrids for that matter. They're doing something, and they were
Well,
allowed to do it.
I believed that for a long time.
Yeah.
And my brother Keith has always said that, and a lot of people laughed at him, but he may have some truth in that. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. But I know once the alien thing does come out, there won't be any Democrats, Republicans, black, whites, Hispanics, or anybody against anybody. We'll all be humans, and we'll all be taking a change, of course, probably about the way we feel towards each other.
It reminds me of John Carpenter's They Live.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the premise, if you audience members, if you know the premise of the story, but the story is that these aliens have been living on this earth, and they have basically been putting us to sleep, lulling us to sleep with advertisement and such like that, while they can take over. Something like V also. V was also a similar type of storyline. And then somebody's eyes, they created these sunglasses so that people could wake up and actually see what was going on. But the interesting thing about this too is that apparently Trump, right before he was getting ready to leave office, was enacting this military funding that he wanted to do, and he wanted to have funds separated specifically for this alien alliance. And the aliens stepped in and told him he better not tell nobody that they really exist. They actually had to have like a meeting with him and say, you have to keep your word that you're not telling anybody. This is according to Chaim Eshet, that's what was said. Mm-hmm. So Trump was about to spill the beans, and then they said, they drove. Maybe he got a phone call from him or whatever, but maybe
they're the ones who rigged the election. They've been the ones that rigged the election.
I don't know what happened, but it's very interesting. I'm sure there's going to be more behind all of this. We'll hear more stories regarding this whole alien alliance that we're part of, but I am assuming that at some point we're going to see more of these aliens.
Right.
Yeah, crazy as it is.
Crazy.
I'm down for it. Yeah. So I'm going to get to it because we have a really exciting guest here this evening, and this is going to take some time because we are our guest has just done so much, and I don't even know where I can begin because his bio is just
amazing.
It's amazing. So I actually found some footage where there was something that they were going to it says getting to know our next guest. So I'm gonna play this footage, and I hope I don't get banned for this. Let's see. Yeah, let's just see if I can show this without further ado. Hold on. That's my faux pas, so excuse me, folks. My faux pas. Here we go.
I am the interim director here at the National Blues Museum, celebrating 63 years in the broadcast industry. Started off with a degree in journalism from the University of Illinois, but wasn't actually allowed to practice my degree role until a little much later. So I started off as a disc jockey in 1956 from Chicago, Illinois. Worked many stations around the country, mostly in Chicago. WGES, WYNR, WBBM, WESA, WNC, and WVON, and so forth. And also did a stint in Alexandria, Louisiana, KDVS in Alexandria, Louisiana, and also New York City, WEDW for a while, and also San Francisco, KSOL in San Francisco. Wound up in St. Louis, Missouri in 1965 at the radio station KATZ. worked primarily at most of the radio stations here at KETZ, WESL, KKSS, KWU, myself, who's right there. And Channel 2, I was newscaster and weathercaster at Channel 2. And then Channel 30 had a show called Soul Brotherhood, a dance show that actually Soul Train patterned itself after. It's called Jim and Bernie's Soul Brotherhood. Jim Gates was the co-host also. And also the Black Circle Hour. That was back in 1969 through 72. Also worked at KIRL. And KXLW from 67 through 69. KWK 69 to 72. KKSS 75 through 82. KATZ again, and Magic 108. So we just separate the topics. We just say that this song is good. We don't have to categorize it. Blues, soul, hip hop, it's all different. Very little difference in all because of the roots of the same. I would say I like all music. Everybody says that I like all music, even classical music. There's some of the blues classics are defined as soul, R&B, hip hop. So when you ask me what kind of music I like, I give a broad category. Say I like all music. During the late 50s, early 60s, up through the mid 70s and 80s, the radio disc jockey, we were personalities. In fact, it was called personality radio. We used to not only be a record spinner, but we made most of our money after the radio station. We had to go out and spin records in taverns and other lounges and other venues in order to really compensate for the money that we weren't making on the air. The difference is today, most programs, stations are programmed, usually a lot of times out of the city. But when I was coming up in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, we programmed our own music. We may have had a music director, but we programmed our own music, brought our own records into the studios, on the records as you see EMC's doing now. But we were doing that. That was the way we did the job. The records has changed. We weren't allowed to play any records that was considered lewd, naughty. That has changed also. The hip hop generation has come in and actually taken away personality radio. The way it really changed was when the FCC deregulated in 1982. President Reagan deregulated the airways through the FCC, and conglomerates started buying up most of the TV, radio, newspapers, all the communication outlets. And then further de-escalation and deregulation in the late 80s and the 90s with Colin Powell's Powell, that the conglomerates take over everything entirely. So there's hardly any personality radio right now. The radio that you hear on the pop stations, the hip hop stations, and so forth, there's nothing like we used to do. We used to also be the communicators for the community. We used to tell the community what was going on. We used to call the mayor. We used to call the state representatives, the U.S. representatives, the U.S. senators, and so forth. We get information about what's going on in the community. That, to me, is a void now. But that's the way it used to be. We were the personalities, we were the voice of the community, and we were in the community and of the community and about the community at that time. Coming from the 1929s, the Jack and Cooper first started his first radio show, things have progressed. Things are so much better. They got to a peak in the mid-60s where things were really great. They digressed from that, and now they're going back to where they were. Things aren't as good as they used to be in the mid-60s. It really surprised me. It's certainly not as good as they should be, but I have hope. I really do have hope. In the mid-50s, 60s, 70s, African-American people had a surge. They had that energy to move forward, to make changes. But I guess we came to a point in time where we become kind of complacent. And that's not good. Right now we're on downhill. So I know it's hard to often face your own mortality, but I've tried to live a life and do some of the things that will inspire people, especially young folks. And I try to do things that will make my peers proud of me. I sincerely hope that when that day comes, that they say, well, you did well. If you didn't, you certainly tried. That's what I hope to be. A legacy of good deeds, a legacy of teaching, a legacy of love. I'm very, very proud to be interviewed. I think I'm worthy enough to have this interview. I sincerely hope that I compounded, imparted some information that perhaps is useful. The main thing I say again is stay alive, teach one. The saying, each one teach one. It takes the village to raise a child. I sincerely hope that we should be maintained, protected from this. Thank you.
I'm gonna read a little bit of his bio. I mean, you got to know him a little bit through that segment. But before I introduce him, just in case he didn't cover everything in that, and I mean it is extensive, I'm gonna read a little bit of his bio. He is celebrating 63 years as a print and broadcast journalist, radio and television announcer, columnist, and recording artist and record producer. A native of Chicago, he worked at Chicago stations. He also, of course, a lot of us from St. Louis know him from the St. Louis stations. I mean, this man has run the gamut of every alphabetic broadcasting, and I can say because there's so many, everybody has a call sign or for a radio station, so there is so many of them. Just to name a few: WYNR, KATZ, KWK, KADY, KATZ. These are all things that he worked for. In 1967, he established the first African-American record distribution, Westcott Record Distributors in St. Louis, supplying area record stores and retail outlets with national and regional recorded music. He hosted the Soul Brotherhood, which he did mention here, and Black Circle Hour television dance programs on Channel 30, and was an announcer, weathercaster, and host of Dialing for Dollars, if you all remember that one, on KATV or KTVI, Channel 2 ABC. In 1980, he started the first Black radio talk show in St. Louis area. In 1985, Mr. Hayes accepted a position as a news reporter and producer for WCBI-TV, CBS, Columbus, Mississippi, and he returned to St. Louis in 1986. There is just so much that I can read about him. I do want to mention that he is the author of the book, The Death of Black Radio, A History of Blacks in the Broadcast and Music Industry. He also is the interim executive director of the National Blues Museum. He is acting, and he's in a full-length film called The Swing Set, and he recently appeared in the stage production of Unsung. He also is in a new religious Western movie called The White Rider, which was just recently released. I want to be him when I grow up, honestly. He is the curator of the Don and Heidi Wolf Jazz Institute and the National Black Radio Hall of Fame at Harris Stowe State University. I can go on about this man, but most importantly, he is a U.S. Air Force veteran, and he is married to Miss Huvie Hayes, a psychological examiner of the St. Louis Public Schools and nationally recognized and respected recording artist. Without further ado, because we want to get into this man's life, ladies and gentlemen, can I please introduce to you all Mr. Bernie Hayes. Hi, Bernie. Can you hear us?
I
Hey,
feel
Bernie.
like I'm dreaming out of season. Hi, David.
Oh my goodness.
I'm dreaming out
Hey, dreaming out of season. Huh?
of season.
Out of season, right?
Yeah.
Bernie, you have done so much. Where do you get this energy? Where do you get this energy? And I don't think that it's going to stop here because you're acting now. So where do you get all this energy?
Yeah.
Where did this
I don't
begin?
know. I guess I'm afraid to stop. I'm afraid to stop. If I stop, I feel like I lay down and die. I don't do that. Yeah, I'm afraid of
Well,
dying. So I just have to keep going. Yeah, I have to keep going.
well, you know what the Bible
And I
says.
really appreciate being.
Hmm? What were you gonna say?
I just want to say I appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me on this with you and David. This is like heaven. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, then we have to have you come back. We definitely have to have you come back and talk to us and kind of give us, your perspective on things, especially when it comes to music right now. So, Bernie, I was going to say, there's a Bible verse that says, you're appointed one life, and you have lived this life. I mean, you've done so much. You've started in radio. You are a force within the Black community. I mean, everybody knows your name. I just recently got off a Zoom call. My uncle is celebrating, my godfather is celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary today. And I was telling everybody that I was having the opportunity of actually interviewing you today with my dad, and everybody knew who you were. And it's just amazing. It's amazing.
It's real.
It is. And you're acting now. You're doing acting right now. How did that even start?
Well, one of my students at Webster University, his major is filmmaking, and in the class 25 years ago, he was making a film, and he asked me to be in it if I felt like acting. I told him, yeah, I'd make some cameo shots when I was in Chicago, and so he finished writing this particular film called The Swing Set, and he asked me to star in it, and I told him fine, and I did, and it worked out fine. And now we're working on 2 other productions now: The White Rider and The White Rider Return. The White Rider's already out. It accrued several awards, and The White Rider 2 is in production now. So I'll be going out to Arkansas and Oklahoma pretty soon next month to finish up that particular thing.
Oh,
that's what it was.
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I got
Bernie. I wanted to ask. Oh, you did, huh? I just wanted to also throw out. You also had an Alton, Illinois connection. Did you not have a record shop there, one of the first Black-owned record shops in Alton? And I don't know if it's ever been one there since. But I remember back in the day, you had a record shop there. Is that correct? Am I remembering right?
Yeah. Our dear friend Luther Ingram, May 1965. There's Bernie Arnold record stores in Alton, Illinois. So I had one there. It was the only one there. And I don't think there's been one. I had 4 or 5 different locations. So we operated that store almost 15 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're correct. Alton has that's a place in my heart. I still go to Alton quite often.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Okay.
We all
Lost his last.
Even when I come back home,
Sure.
when I come home to St. Louis, I have to go to Alton. I have to go there. I have to go to Grafton to get my fish. I have to go, I still talk about it. It's a very memorable place, So let's talk about your radio career, because this is really important. I mean, it just spanned decades. So you kind of tell us a little bit about how you got into radio and how this progressed as far as Black radio, because I can remember a time, and I was born in the 60s, when there was no Black radio. And finally, when we did have a Black radio station, it was like a hallelujah moment. I don't know, Dad, you could speak to that too.
Well, I remember, I thought KATZ might have been one of the first, or was it KXLW, Bernie? Which one was it? The first Black radio.
KATC first.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, it was KXCN, because the first Black disc jockey here was on KXCN, and Gabriel had Black radio in Alton, 1959. Gabriel, but the first Black disc jockey, St. Louis, is the father the photographer for the St. Louis American newspaper.
Okay.
And that was in 1959. Yeah, so then
Okay.
KXLW came in. I'm sorry, K came in, and then there was the station WERD in East Side, on East St. Louis, that became WESL, you know, and then KATZ actually came over and become the dominant station. That was in the early 1965, when I came. Doug Eason, Robert BQ, Jerome Dixon, Dave Dixon, Gabriel, you know, Spiderberg. Those are the people, those are the heroes at the station at the time.
So Bernie, I will say this, that Dave Dixon, Dave Dixon is my brother's father. So my brother's name is Jerome Dixon.
Really?
Yes. So we have a connection here. Yes, because I remember that growing up. But yes, my brother is Jerome Dixon, who's Dave Dixon's son. Yep. It's nice to hear you mention his name.
Jerome very well.
Yeah. Yep.
Jerome is my Jerome. Very well.
Yep, that's my brother.
Well, small world neighbors.
Yep, it is a small world.
Small world.
Yeah. He lives in Portland Lake. Yeah, small world, very small world. Yeah,
yep,
I know very, very, very well. Yeah.
So when you started all this, you learned, you met so many people in the industry, and you got an opportunity to pretty much introduce Black radio to the Midwest as a whole when it didn't exist. You know, tell us about that span of time where you were introducing it, and if you had any opposition to starting Black radio in St. Louis when it first occurred, or the Midwest.
Well, I didn't start Black radio. I started Black Talk Radio. KTZ was already established when I came here. Yeah, I came here from San Francisco, SOL in 1965, April 4th, 1965. But KTZ was very well established at that time, because Gracie and Blue Times, they had been here in 63 or 64. Yeah, and Rodney Jones, they were on the East St. Louis station. And so when I came here, I just happened to become at a very great time from San Francisco in 1965, April 1965. And from there, I just continued to do what I had to do. So I tried to make things better. That KWK that's on the screen now, that was in 1969. Scoop Sanders, whose real name was Al Gay, he went on to become the #1 anchor, television anchor in Baltimore. And myself, we were the first two to reopen the station. It closed because of a phony contest that they had, radio contest. So we reopened it in 1969. And we had some, as you see, Al Waples and Bill Bailey, Don St. John, Howard DeCordy. So we established, we knocked KATZ out of the #1 spot. We became the #1 station at the time, KWK. And,
wow.
We just had a lot of fun. It was so much fun doing it. David was part of all this. No, your dad was part of all this with MONTCLAIRS, Ian Keith, and all the other guys.
Yeah, I was going to put a little trivia story for you. I'm always good about that. Let's go back to the late 60s. And you and my brother Keith, we decided one night we were going to drive down to Stax to either get our little first record to see if they could get it distributed. And you and Keith drove down, and you drove with Walter Jackson. You remember Walter Jackson, Lee Cross, the guy that sang Lee Cross?
Walter did most of it.
Yeah, Walter, and you drove ahead of us. And Keith drove us, the infamous MONTCLAIRS, down behind you. What I wanted to say was, while Keith and I and you were over at the Stax Studios trying to negotiate something, get something going for the MONTCLAIRS, we left the MONTCLAIRS at the hotel, which we probably shouldn't have done that. And we get a call from Walter Jackson, hey guys, you got to get back here quick. He said these guys are in the room. They're tearing the room up. They were jumping up and down on the beds and making all kinds of noise and all on top of the beds and the ceilings. It was Phil Perry, Kevin Sandlin, George McClellan. Anyway, we had to stop what we were doing and come back and quarrel them down because they had never been anywhere. So when you let people out of the cage and they go places, but Walter Jackson had to call you to tell you to come and get them out of there. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I remember it like it was yesterday.
Well, David, I remember it very well. And the fact that you remember, Walter wanted to drive, but he was on crutches. Remember, he had
right
to from the gas to the brake. I remember it very well. I'm surprised that you remember that. I remember that very well.
I remember.
But the MONTCLAIRS, like I was like, MONTCLAIRS, your hits is what kept Black radio going. Your hits and others. Like you mentioned, you guys
appreciate that.
Our resource to be good on the radio. Yeah, the talent, but you guys were unbelievable. Oliver's Sane, when he took you guys over under his wing too. That made a big difference. Yep. You guys made a lot of history, and I'm proud of you, and I'm very thankful for you.
Well, I appreciate that, Bernie. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Bernie, it's a testament that you would say that, and I know that that's the truth because I think on one of the shows that I had actually spoken to my dad about, that I have been in situations here in the East Coast, and once when I was on a flight to London, I used to be a flight attendant, where a gentleman knew who the MONTCLAIRS was, and he just completely freaked out. A British gentleman, he completely freaked out because he knew the group, and he wanted to know what happened to them. And then I went to a random barbecue that my neighbor was having one time, and a guy found out that my dad sang with the MONTCLAIRS, and he literally cried because he's like, they don't make music like that anymore. And let's talk about that.
Beautiful.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You wrote a book. You wrote a book about
MONTCLAIRS. Yeah.
I was going to say, you wrote a book called The Death of Black Radio, and there's so much that entails, but I kind of want to give the audience an idea of what that meant, because in my opinion, and I thought I would never be the one to say this in my age, saying that they don't do things the way that they used to. They don't make music the way they used to. We're not a community anymore like it used to be, where you got all your information from Black radio. There was some kind of prestige of having a position as a disc jockey on Black radio. Kind of tell us a little bit about the book, and what was your idea behind this? I mean, we obviously know, but I just want to know why you felt compelled to write this book.
Well, Jack L. Cooper, who was the very first Black disc jockey of known back in 1929, began. And from that day on, Wesley South and WVON in Chicago in 1963 was giving out information. And I figured it was our duty. We were charged with giving information to the African American community. Sometimes they call us clowns and so forth because we'd be rhyming like Montague and others and so forth, Roy Wood. But we were still distributing information to the community that was in very much in need of information. So many contributions that African Americans made to the industry were never documented. No one knew what we had done. They didn't know that we were the first one to play 10, 12, 14-minute records. They didn't know that we made these artists that were covered by white people like Elvis Presley. They didn't know that, so I had to write this book. People had to know what we had contributed because we were on top of it all. We helped the civil rights movement very, very much because the disc jockeys in each city, when something was happening, we'd get on the radio and tell the people what was happening. The other stations wouldn't tell them. They didn't know whether meetings were going to be held. They didn't know where they could get food and that government cheese. So that was a vital part of our charge. And we tried to just fulfill it as best as we could. And it is still that way too, because we don't own anything anymore. We didn't own the radio stations then. Michael Powell, General Powell's son, he got to be the FCC leader, the chairman of the FCC. He helped deregulate the industry so the conglomerates could buy everything. So a few black radio stations that were on, the conglomerates came in and bought them all up, So we had no voice again. And it's still that same way. All the program that you hear on the black stations is programmed out of Texas or California, out of New York. We have no control, and they don't consider what's going on locally. They just want to make money and take black folks' money and continue to do that. So that's why I wrote the book. I want people to know the history of what we had done, what we had contributed, and why here is now.
Did you ever come across an incident where, what you might have been saying that they threatened to shut you down for something that they felt was not appropriate or controversial? And I'm saying it from the perspective of someone who is of color. Did they think that you all were getting too militant or too controversial, or that you were going to cause an insurrection at some point by the content that you were giving people at the time? Did that ever occur to you? For you?
No, it was just the opposite. We shut them down. Actually, we had 4 different strikes, perhaps some of them. KWK, we shut down KWK. We shut down KKSS. Shut down KATZ twice. Cut down Magic 108. Yeah, and I'm proud to say I initiated all these different actions. One guy told me that KKSS, Stereo and Black, Alan Eisenberg, I was the program director, music director, I was the boss of the station. And we had a white disc jockey, Scott St. James, who was making more money than me. And when I told Eisenberg, I says, I'm the boss, I'm the music director, program director, and operations manager, yet still the white guy is making more money than me. And his reply to me was, well, white people always make more money than black people. So we had to shut them down.
Oh!
At KWK, yeah, they sent in some people from Memphis, white boys from Memphis, Tennessee, to do the music for KWK. I'm sure you remember this too, Keith, David, that shut them down because they had no idea what was going on in the American community, but they wanted to just come in and play some records that they had manufactured, and their manufacturers in different New York and Los Angeles wanted to play. And we said, no, we won't accept that either, because they're going to cut off all the information to black people. So we shut that down. So there are 5 different actions that we took. They didn't shut us down, we went down. And we won every suit we pursued, we won it.
Oh, wow. Wow. You're forced to be reckoned with.
It's in the book.
Yeah.
He was a pioneer.
Yeah, you're definitely a pioneer.
Sure.
And part of your career is that you actually, I think one of the things that I read about that you actually did, you actually worked with Sly from the Family Stone. And you've actually met some other celebrities too. I saw some other pictures of you. I think there's one I have in here of you with with the Jacksons. And I mean, just
and Michael.
Yeah. So
Michael.
So tell us about.
He was 6 years old. He was 6. They ran out of gas. They had to go buy him gas.
Oh wow.
He was 6 years old. He was at 12. This is 1972 here. He was a little bit older, but in 1967, Scoop Sanders and I brought the Jackson 5 here. We had him at the London House East. I keep saying Keith. I met David. We had him at the London House East. Remember that place?
Yeah, over in
Michael was 6 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, East St. Louis. Yeah, on Broadway there. And so we first brought the Jacksons here. Sly and I worked together. KSOL. Sly Stone. Sylvester Stewart is his name. We named him Sly Stone. Yeah. And so many others. Yeah. There were quite a few. Like at the time, Steve, James Brown, all those folks, they would come by the radio stations because we made them until they got so big that they didn't want to come back anymore. But when they were scuffling,
they didn't have to. They didn't have to come back anymore when they make it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
they made it,
gone are the days that people actually bought their records. they brought their records to the disc jockey and begged the disc jockey to play their record so that it would be put on the radio. I see that in the movies.
Chess records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah, that was a terrible record. That was a terrible movie. Nothing in that movie was true.
Nothing in the chess record.
Cadillac Records.
Yeah, Cadillac Records. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. But I think I saw something else. I think I saw something else where James Brown was asking. He went to record stations, and I think it's the one where the one that he was portrayed by
Boseman.
Chadwick Boseman, and then he actually went into
James Brown went by. He went by. You didn't play his record. He just buy the whole radio station.
But this is before he became famous, though. It was before he became famous. But I mean, I've seen that happen before.
No, his music was so good.
Yeah, nobody was
his
afraid.
Music was so good. We did the play.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that it was worth him convincing it to be played on white radio than black radio, because black radio, of course, was very accepting of that because his music was good. You know, it was funky, and we didn't have any issue with that. I think white people had an issue with that type of music, and so, you know, he had to convince them to play the music on their stations. So that's just an interesting aspect of it. But I mean, remember the day. Yep, a manager would have to come to the radio station. Pardon me?
You got a bad connection.
No, so they didn't necessarily want to cross over. Yeah, they had to because it's so popular. They were forced to play most of that good music, especially when Motown came out and Stax came out. They had that music so good that some of the white disc jockeys would have to play it because the audience demanded it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember the days where the manager would actually go to the radio station and ask somebody if they would play somebody's music on the air. They would travel, you know, all through the Midwest and the South just to have the music played.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. They're called promotion man.
Yeah. Good old promotion man.
Yeah.
The promotion man did that.
Yeah,
so they wasn't. So, Dad, was that Keith? Was that Uncle Keith with you when they did that with the MONTCLAIRS? And he'd go to burn you with the.
I think he might have been the only promotion man we had.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Keith was the promotion man. Keith was the one who got all your records played across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was Keith.
Yeah.
You asked me one time how long I've been knowing Keith in the documentary that you were producing. And to be honest with you, I don't remember not knowing you or Keith. I don't remember not knowing you.
We do go back a long way. A long way.
Yeah.
Where they were that annoying.
Oh no, they were that good. They were that good.
Yeah.
They were that good.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's
everybody
awesome
was so proud of my crew. That was local talent made good.
Yeah. Yeah. They were awesome.
We're going to have Keith on probably as a guest as soon as he figures out how to work his computer. We'll probably entertain having him on in the near future.
Well, we should have you both on so we all can talk about some old stories. That would be interesting.
That would be great.
So tell us about the National Blues Museum that is in St. Louis. This is really, you know, I'm excited about this. So tell us a little bit about this, the history of this, and you being a part of this.
We try to preserve the history of the blues, the true history of the blues. Not only, you see, the blues come in so many different forms, and until they got in control of white people, blues was blues, but then they started breaking it up for monetary purposes to the Delta blues, Southern blues, Memphis blues, Chicago blues, country blues, and so forth. But to black folks, it was just blues, it was just soul music. It was blues. James Brown could be a blues singer. You know, Johnny Taylor was a blues singer to us, but to them, it was all soul. It was just black music. So we would just try to preserve the history and the true nature of what the blues was from W.C. Handy until today. But some of the artists at the Blues Museum also are white artists that could come in. But the artifacts that we have and the interaction displays shows the Bessie Smiths, Ma Rainey's, the people who the pioneers of that genre, and most of them were black. Although now we've integrated to that, even included the Beatles in there now, and the Rolling Stones, because they were influenced by Muddy Waters and the Wolf, Howlin' Wolf. So we just try to tell the real story, what the blues is like and where it came from. And it came from black people, and if it wasn't for black radio, you would know a thing about the blues.
Yeah. I just recently watched during Native American Heritage Month in November last year, I watched a movie called Rumble. And they highlighted a lot of people in that. They were talking about the mixture of black music and Native American music actually creating blues and what we know as the sound of blues, and how because we weren't allowed to have drums and Native American slaves were not allowed to have drums, they did the percussion on the guitar. So that's what it sound, that sound that they would actually do it. And they highlighted a lot. I highly recommend that movie if anybody has not seen that movie. Amazing movie. But the connection of the two, being Native American and black people, or people that are black that have Native American heritage, creating this sound that was unique unto them, and then of course, populated into the world, basically. So that's interesting.
People didn't know that Redbone was Native American. They didn't know that Redbone was Native American until they saw him. Yeah. That's also
exactly
in the movie. Yeah, and the different those ladies who their native dancers. We're so much connected and so much history that we don't know about because we very seldom write it. But those who write the history, I try to encourage everybody to write a book.
Yeah, they specifically talked about, I believe, Charlie Patton. I think that's what his name was. The Choctaw singer. Yeah.
Yes.
About it. It's very good. It's so very good. So very good. Very good movie.
A lot of folks just think Charlie Patton was black. They don't know he was. He was native, but he looked black. He was so dark. They just considered him. Thought he was a black guy. But Charlie Patton was mostly native, indigenous. Yeah. Yeah,
he was Choctaw. That's an interesting one. We could get into a whole discussion about Charlie Patton in particular and about the intersection of black people and Native American people. But I mean, so much has been taken from what, as we know as blues, is just an internal crying of people who have been oppressed, and taking that sound and emanating it out, to now what we know as modern day blues. So it's just very, very good.
Choctaw, Chickasaw.
All those people from the Mississippi Delta South area, right? And the Cherokee.
Right.
Very, very good. Yeah. So another thing that you're part of the
Cherokee's
National Black Radio Hall of Fame. Yeah, definitely Cherokee. That's a very there's a lot of Cherokee. A lot of Cherokee. So tell us about this, the National Black Radio Hall of Fame that you got inducted in.
Well, your dad was also inducted. We had a ceremony that brought him to MONTCLAIRS, to the National Black Radio Hall of Fame. This is something we like I said, like in the book, we wanted to preserve the history of blacks in radio. And David was one of those that inducted 3 years ago, David? 4 or 4 years ago.
About 4 years ago.
Yeah, remember that ceremony?
Yes, I do.
4 years, yeah. So we wanted people to recognize who were the people in radio, black radio, that did so much, and so many, all the contributions of St. Louis that they did. When we mentioned Spider Burks and Robert BQ, Blue Times, and all these people, Gracie, Gabriel, all these people, they did so much, made so many contributions, broke so many records that they should be known, and people don't know what they did. And
Right.
That's the reason for the National Black Radio Hall of Fame.
Right.
Yeah, those pictures you just showed earlier with me looking at the wall, that's in the National Black Radio Hall of Fame. And the Atlanta chapter is one of the biggest that we have. They have their induction ceremony February 27th, and we're going to induct some more March 27th. Yeah, that's the Black Radio Hall of Fame. I was showing Jim Gates and Jockenstein and all those different people. You know that picture that I'm pointing to right now? Can you see it? Half the people on that picture now are deceased.
Oh, wow. Let me see if I can pull this picture up.
That's what lifestyles, very important. Lifestyles, what you keep are very important. Half of those people are deceased now. That was WESL. Jockenstein, Jim Gates, Sweet Charlie, EDB, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those names. Yeah. I definitely remember those names. It gave me all kinds of feels hearing those names because I remember that. It also reminds me of the connection that we had, you know, the deep connection that we all had with Black radio growing up in St. Louis, and how, you know, it had such an influence on everything that we did. You know, television wasn't as prominent as it is now. Black radio is where we got everything, where we heard the latest songs, you know, when, you know, Jockenstein would do a little call out or whatever. I mean, it just was, it ran, you know, it had such a deep influence on all of us, people of color in St. Louis, you know. Great memories, definitely great memories.
Roll call.
What?
Jockenstein's roll call.
Yep, it's roll call. Yeah, it's roll call. I totally remember that. I remember that. What? Tell me a little bit about what do you think about the music today? I'm curious, as somebody who has had this long career in music, radio, what do you think about the music today? And if you don't like the music today, when do you feel that it changed?
No, I love it. I love it. You know, and I was totally taken back by rap music when it first came about. They were actually what the Sugar Hill
gang,
Joe and his wife Sylvia were taking what that's all it was. And so I wasn't. But then when the genre evolved, I guess, to the gangster rap situation, and then so forth, I was taken. I didn't like the gangster rap, and then I didn't like the images that they were portraying. I was on a program 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I told the people when they were talking about what influence the music had on people. I would tell them that if some of these Nelly and the other guy in Atlanta has a clothing line, if they would come out with a nice suspender line, you know, a lot of suspenders, they would have these kids pull their pants up. You know, but the music itself, I think is good. It depends on what the distributors and the record companies allow us to hear, and they're still in control. We don't do anything that they will not allow it. But some of it is really good, and some of it is really bad. But some of these young kids who are doing all these gangster rappers are they're geniuses, and then they put their mind to something positive. You'd be surprised at better I think our lives would be in there. Put the comb stops talking about it. Putty came out with a line of suspenders that created, you know, and then have people pull their pants up, look nice. Because ladies, let me say, when we were growing up, David will attest to this, the sharper we were, the better we looked, the more women we can get.
That's right. Yeah.
Creasing your pants.
And that's still today. And that's still today. That is still today.
That's right.
When you see him saying,
Yep. My friend Tracy's laughing about it because she knows. She knows too. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that still applies today, is applicable today. I personally am not into the music today. I know that there's some of it that's good, but it's almost like looking at like a needle through a haystack. I have completely just gone to a whole different genre. And I actually tried to introduce my dad to it because I'm now listening to C-pop and K-pop, which I feel like it's a little bit more a livelier music, although they have kind of, I don't know if it's what I would say culturally appropriated hip hop music. The music is very well produced and it's very good. And so that seems to be where my ear is.
Yeah.
Outside of just, rock music and alternative music, which I also like, I just sometimes can't stomach what we're hearing, especially like the mumble rap. I can't get down with it. It's just not my thing. And I agree with you. I think that when rap first started, it was more of people educating you through the word and a beat behind it. And somehow, some way, we completely have gone far from that. So
I agree.
I often been into arguments about, especially Jockenstein and I used to argue a lot about this, and Jim Gates, about the very, very popular record by George Clinton. A dog.
Yes.
And then the adults, Omega, adapted that thing. But just think if George would say, instead of the dog in me, if he could have said the man in me, or the love in me, or the soul in me. But he said the dog. And I just disagree with that. We're not dogs.
Yeah.
I just didn't like that.
I agree wholeheartedly, Bernie.
No, things are definitely.
That could have been a.
Think about
Yeah.
In our day, our music, we were lovers, not fighters.
and not dogs. At least you wouldn't say it in the music.
Not dogs, right?
You wouldn't say it in the music, Well, before we go, Bernie, I'm going to keep you on here because we're about to wrap up. I wanted just to tell our audience where we can find the movie that you did, the Swing Set. You can watch it now on Amazon Prime. So I'm looking forward to this. As an actor myself, I'm excited about watching Bernie Hayes in a film and looking to see, especially the new things that you're coming out with. So wow. We need to have another discussion about your acting career because that's a whole different career. I mean, we touched on so much.
We'll definitely have to do a part 2 with Bernie. Got so many things still left that we could be talking about.
Yeah. Platforms. Yeah, and also the White Rider. They're both on Amazon Prime and other platforms too. Yeah, so they're streaming all over. Swing Set and the White Rider. Yeah.
Night Rider.
So
the White Rider, White Rider 1 and White Rider 2. So Bernie, now that I have you on here, so I always do a segment with my dad. Like I said, I love K-pop music, so I always do a segment with my dad where I feature a new K-pop artist to my dad and get an idea of what he thinks about this particular new artist. So a lot of this stuff now, by the time we get it's like a year old. I try to keep abreast of what's coming out immediately when it comes out. But now that I have an authority here, not to say that Dad isn't an authority, but now that I have you here, I want to get your opinion on some of the one of the artists that I am listening to specifically, and who had just come out with something. So I don't know if you know too much about K-pop or the genre, but most of these guys who do single records have come from a bigger boy band or a bigger group. And this particular person who is who's in this particular interview, this one right now, his name is Wano. And Wano is part of a group called Monster X. So Monster X is, I think he's part of Monster X. I have to make sure that let me just make sure that I'm telling the right Monster X. So there's so many groups right now. I cannot tell you how many there are, but the content is very good. So I wanted to feature his song called Open Mind, and I wanted to show this to you all and get your opinion on this particular song. So I'm going to pull it up. Now his real name is, Wano's real name is, let me get a picture of him. There he is. So Bono's real name is Lee Ho-suk. He's Korean, of course. He's known by his stage name Wano. He's a South Korean singer under Highline Entertainment. He's a former member of the South Korean boy band Monsta X, which debuted under Starship Entertainment in 2015. And so now that he's gotten older, he now has like a more mature look, more mature mindset. So now his music has gotten mature. And so he set out, they featured him as himself. So without further ado, we're going to watch Wano's Open Mind.
Okay.
일로부터 뭔가 달라 baby 따라 그려보고 싶어 lady 아무도 몰래 훔친 너의 쉐로 다르게 흘러가는 너의 제도 온몸이 짜릿해지게 더 새로운 세상을 줄게 Don't you want some living You don't have to love me Cause I want the same thing 상상하지 마 완전 다를 테니까 오늘 밤은 Keep an open mind girl 처음 느낀 감각을 전부 깨워 넌 다시 태어나겠지 지금부터 나는 세계 감당하고는 안 돼 yeah. 넌 중독될 거야 내게 장담할게 온몸이 짜릿해지게 더 새로운 세상을 줄게 Don't you want some living You don't have to love me Cause I want the same thing 상상하지 마 완전 다를 테니까 오늘 밤은 Keep an open mind girl Oh, you and I 있어도 좋아 망설일 거 없잖아 Oh, you and I 후회는 없어 걱정 따윈 사치야 You don't have to love me We both want the same thing 상상하지 마 완전 다를 테니까 오늘 밤은 Keep an open mind girl Oh, you and I 있어도 좋아 망설일 거 없잖아 Oh, you and I 그댄 없어 걱정 따윈 사치야 Keep an open mind girl
About that.
I like it.
You liked it, huh?
I like it very much. Yeah.
What y'all think? What'd you think about it?
You know
Go ahead. What were you
what
saying?
I have to get used to still because
You have to get used to. You have to get used to.
I'm used to.
K-pop.
I had to get used to the snow. No, the synthesized music. I'm used to live horns and live strings and live percussions and so forth. You know, like the MONTCLAIRS used to make. But I
Right.
like what they're doing now. I like all the graphics that they can come up with. So it's really good. When they do it right, it's beautiful. I love it.
The production quality is actually very good too, and the effect of the editing in the film and the music video is really also very well done. It makes it so appealing, and it makes it such a pleasurable experience, sound wise, visually. And the one thing that's very interesting in K-pop music is that they must learn how to dance. They do choreography in the performance. So you're getting everything here. You're getting a full-fledged stage performance by these artists. They actually have schools in Korea where if you aspire to be a singer, you go to these schools for a year or two, and then based on if they think you're good enough, they'll put you in a group, and hopefully your group will be successful. You know, but they take this very seriously. This is huge in Asia, and now it's coming to America, where they have a large fan base here in America, one being me. I love it. Yeah. So
I enjoy it very much.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure Wano would appreciate that too, being you know, from someone who's a great authority like you are. So Bernie, where can we find you on social media and everything, and how can people follow you? Where could they go?
I'm on Facebook, Bernie Hayes, 2 accounts on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter at Berhay, BERHAY, at Berhay. I was on Instagram, but they hacked my account, so I'm trying to disassociate myself with them. But I'm on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
So you're on Twitter at Hayes?
Yeah, Berhay, BERHAY.
Berhay.
All lowercase.
Berhay.
Berhay.
Berhay. Okay. I'm gonna put this down so everybody can see
and
this.
YouTube.
Oh yeah, let's put that on there. You're on YouTube as Bernie Hayes.
Bernie Hayes show, Bernie Hayes or Bernie Hayes TV show.
Okay, let's put this up here for everybody to see. All righty. So we're gonna put this on here so everybody can see it. Put it on as a banner. All righty. Well, we definitely have to have you back, Bernie. I mean, this has been quite a pleasure. I mean, there's so much to you. I don't think we can even chip away at the iceberg of Bernie Hayes. So we have to have you come back and just discuss more music with us. Just discuss, you know, some other content. Maybe have you come on and co-host with us when we have somebody else on, you know, to give your opinion about it. We would love to have you do that. Any last words that you want to say to anybody in our audience? You're very welcome. Any last words you want to say to our audience?
Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun seeing David. A lot of fun seeing you. And thank you so much for all the accolades. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernie.
We enjoyed it. For everything. Thank you for everything you've done for the community. Thank you for, you know, keeping the prosperity of Black radio, you know, everything that you do concerning our history. We can't thank you enough. And I'm saying that for everybody, especially people from St. Louis and everybody that has had the blessing of knowing you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernie.
Also, I have a column in the St. Louis American. Get me there.
Okay. Just say that too.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Hold on. So with that being said, we will be back here next Saturday at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. Dad and I will be discussing whatever is going to be going on in the world, and hopefully it won't be too crazy.
No,
Dad, Yeah, hopefully not. I hope that it's like, it's going to be a little bit better. Hopefully things will be a lot better and we'll be back to normal, hopefully soon, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, we'll be
And
back.
you're gonna get that second shot,
Yes,
right?
that's right. Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Monday. So we'll get an update on you and the second shot after that.
Okay.
You'll be around, Dad. You'll be okay.
Bye now.
All right. So like, subscribe, follow us on Cliff Dive Productions, Into the Fry Zone. Just to give you a context of Cliff Dive Productions, on Friday night, we do the Tingling Tea at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about all things scary, supernatural, creepy, cryptid, horror, all that kind of content. And then also Saturday with the Bitnapple TV with my friends and my Bitnapple family, as we talk to people in the geek world, artists, actors, and such. And then on Sunday night, I will be back here at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with Evolution Comics doing This Week in Pop Culture. So we will see you next Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Please stay safe. Please be healthy, stay healthy for all of us. And hopefully we'll be out of this situation soon. God bless everybody. And
God bless. Bye.
Bye, Dad.
Bye.